I want to call back my daughter and to say your name correctly. I am here with Ariel. Oh, that was a little start. Elias. Elias? Yes.
So
Oh,
another great question. I pronounce it Elias. I think the technically correct way is to say like Elias, which maybe your daughter can do if she's learning Spanish, but
yeah.
Elias is great.
Fucking A. Okay. I'm here with AE, as we will go. No, I'm just kidding. And she is a fantastic comedian and very funny. And the only thing I don't like about her is that she watches tennis because I find it boring. But then again, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your fiance is also a comedian.
He is also a comedian.
And a tour guide.
And a tour guide.
Which
yeah.
cracked me up. So how you doing during the pandemic, which we're in denial of, and now we say it's over, but it's not really over?
How am I doing? I would say in this moment, on this day, I am doing well. But that is, my condition changes constantly and for no reason a lot of times. And I'm trying to be better about just acknowledging where I'm at when I'm at it.
I think the reason is the world's on fire, literally and physically, and
yes.
Yeah, or figuratively, and we're all gonna die. But over the summer, a few months ago, some point in the last 4 to 6 months, you were performing in Central Park, which is something that a lot of comedians are doing, thank God, because we all need laughs. And you had a great one-liner that was also picked up on by the New York Times, which is incredible. And it really summed up everything. It was, thank you for being here and shame on you. And I'm sure your delivery was better, but
you did great.
Thank you. It really, I read words off of paper. It's cool. It really captured the like conflicting crazy of our world now, which is why I think it struck a nerve. And it's, like we want to get out, we want to do things, we want to return back to normal, but is that the right thing to do? And
yeah, it's hard because it's not just we want to get out, right? It's like we have to get out.
Yes.
Like there is a balance of like we're all just trying to mitigate these risks. And at what point do the mental health risks of staying inside and isolating yourself outweigh the physical risks of potentially catching this virus?
Right.
So and there's still no clear, I mean, the weird thing about these park shows is that they are technically illegal. So because there's no like guidance about how to have ticketed events, like we're literally breaking the law by gathering in a park, even if everybody's wearing masks and everybody's distanced. By virtue of having a microphone and by getting paid, we're breaking the law.
Okay, so but has anyone ever approached, like, has this been a...
Yes, this has been a thing. So a lot of the Battery Park shows have gotten shut down. I think one of the Central Park shows did too. It's sort of like they're not quite enforcing it, but sometimes they do. So that's the extra sort of like shame on you for being here. It's like, yeah, and on top of these risks, we're breaking the law, which feels like kind of cool a little bit. Yeah, it feels very like Prohibition era comedy.
But it also feels like maybe there's better things for the police to be doing.
Always.
Yeah.
There's always better things for them to be doing.
But especially now, I feel like, whatever. I'm glad none of you have been shot. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird because I remember at the beginning of the pandemic here, because we live in Queens, so it's like very epicenter-y, of like my fiance and I thinking, at some point, are we going to be locked in our homes and the military and the police are going to come by and distribute meals for everybody and like groceries so that we all stay inside for 3 weeks and then this is over, which
wow, you had a lot of faith in like our government.
It's so wild now thinking back then, like that'll be worst case scenario. And now thinking like, man, I wish they had done that. That would have been best case scenario.
Yes.
Right. And so to go from will the police and military be coming to deliver stuff, and that's how they'll be using their time, to now being in a park and thinking like, will the police come and shut us down, and that's how they'll be using their time.
So they just shut you down? Is there a consequence?
Not for the comedians. I don't know if there is for the club, like, because it's, the park shows are for the most part put on by Stand Up New York, and then there are like these sort of like other back alley, not back alley, it's not an abortion, but
it
these
should
sort of like,
could be. I mean, they're paying more
right.
attention to the clubs than the abortion.
Yeah. But there are some other like underground shows. I don't know like what, if the club owners get fines or what, or how many like warnings you get, but you know, you get shut down. And for me, the consequence is if I don't go up, I don't get paid. And
Yeah.
I don't have a day job anymore, except for Census, but I don't have a regular day job anymore because I, like everybody, lost everything kind of overnight in March. So like, that's how I'm paying my rent, which I'm very grateful for. But if it gets shut down, that's my consequence, is it's harder for me to pay my rent.
So wait, census taking does not pay well? Or
So
is
yeah,
it
census taking does pay well. It's, but it's very temporary and it's very chaotic. But I used to be a dog walker.
So you're prepared to juggle things.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this census taking?
So since August, I signed up in March once I lost my job. I signed up. I was hired, I guess, in May, and then it kept getting delayed because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then we had training, and then it was still another few weeks before we started going out into the field. And then it started in my neighborhood. Everybody, the idea is like every census taker starts in their neighborhood because like you're supposed to know your neighborhood and people are supposed to trust you.
Yeah.
Which they do not. It's really just a great way to find out which of your neighbors are assholes. And then you walk around in your normal life and you're like, fuck that guy, and he doesn't remember you at all.
Yeah.
And now, because the census is ending so much sooner than it should be, because they've changed it from 4 months, which is what it was in a normal year, to 2 months, which is what it is in a pandemic.
Oh, because of the pandemic. Okay.
Well, no, I mean, it's because it's being sabotaged, right? Like, who will be hurt most by not getting counted?
Sure.
So now they're sending us to like further away places, and I'm going to Long Island. There have been a lot of desperate emails and texts being like, does anybody want to go to Florida or Navajo Nation?
No.
Where it's like, no, I'm trying to not get COVID.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I do want to count them, but.
So where in Long Island are you going?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Copiague.
Copag, something. Yeah.
Copag.
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty far out there.
It's like an hour drive.
Everyone on Long Island thinks they're an hour drive from the city.
It genuinely is an hour.
It's literally what we say to make ourselves sound cooler. Actually, I'm in Hewlett, which is on the South Shore, so we say 45 minutes. It's bullshit.
It's near Jones Beach. That's where I'm going.
Not an hour drive, but fine.
It takes me an hour to get there.
If you've done it, fantastic. But it's good. But is that really hitting the people who would benefit most from the census either? And why am I not aware of the census sabotage? I guess because everything else is on fire.
Yeah, it does seem like look, the census is inherently boring. I think like sort of government process is boring, and there's a lot of minutia. I just happen to genuinely enjoy bureaucracy, and I think it's kind of like a puzzle to figure out that I get to wade in. But that town that I'm going to is very interesting because it is a lot of Spanish speakers.
Okay.
And then also a lot of Trump people and like, white people who don't trust the government. So it's a mixed bag, but everybody deserves to be counted, No,
I mean, maybe not. Yes, I understand. But why wouldn't they just do this online? Is there a way to do this online?
There is a way to do this online. I think it slips people's minds. They don't even know about it. There wasn't a huge outreach. Like what there should be is there should be commercials
Yes.
on every channel. There should be pop-up ads. There should be, community organizers telling people there should be drives to fill out the census, but there isn't that this year. One, because we're not having a lot of community drives, right? Like we can't gather. And two, like that stuff would be paid for by the government, and the federal government like doesn't want cities to be counted. They don't want people
yeah.
It's
true. But I mean, that being said, like I have checked 8 times to see if I'm a registered voter, because it's all over the place. Like every social media platform, I have the opportunity to check, and then an email or 8, and I check every time just to make sure I'm not being screwed with. But like, but so yes, you would think that the census would be something as well, because what do we do with those census results?
So they get used, one, to decide how many representatives each community gets in Congress, which is like kind of the main one that people know about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like used for redistricting. It's also used for stuff like funding for schools or community centers or
also
senior housing, affordable housing, how much money your community gets for that. Like everything that is funded on a federal level is determined by the census.
So is there a place that we can direct people to?
I think it's census2020.org, maybe.
I can look it up.
Sorry. I've just been going door to door. I should know that, right?
No, but I mean, we're going to have like a lighthearted haha conversation, but we're talking about something important. And so I kind of want to see where we could direct people.
Yeah, let's,
I think it's census2020.gov.
.gov, that makes sense.
It's okay.
It's like super easy. Also, if there's something that you don't want to answer, you don't have to. It's like, because some of it's a little personal.
How do you know that someone's not responding 8,000 times?
So there's supposed to be a quality check in place.
Gotcha.
But because of the shortened deadline, a lot of that stuff is going to fall through the cracks. So
perhaps I should respond as a impoverished minority male young minority male in order to get more support towards, I don't know. I don't mind breaking the law. I've never broken any interesting laws. So if this is it, I'm all for it. But so essentially, if we air this soon, which now I think we should, people can go to 2020census.gov.
Is it 2020 census or is it census 2020? I think it's census2020.gov.
Here it says 2020census.gov.
Oh, well, fuck me.
But maybe there's a fake one. That was my other thought.
You can also just Google the census.
Don't trust Google. Haven't you watched the social media?
Social Dilemma.
Whatever, yeah.
You can also use Ecosia as your alternative web browser.
Okay, fine. All I know is that my feed knows how to fuck with me. That's all I know.
Okay.
And because I'm vigilant about watching the numbers and waiting for them to go up. We all need our crazy.
The death toll numbers? Is that what you mean?
The percentage positives. I'm not really I'm a horrible person, but I'm not wanting the death toll numbers to come up. I'm just wanting us all returned to the same level of shit is crazy, rather than the denial and the tyranny masks and the asshats who don't understand the Constitution and so make up Constitution laws.
Yeah. Do you feel like your neighbors fall into the category of like, this is a hoax?
So it's pretty clear I feel like our Trump supporters have carried out to the this is a hoax thing. Like it's the same people that like I didn't mind in 2016, but now they've gotten worse, and very many of them refuse to believe. And so at this point, I just like to hashtag science and move on, or hashtag flat earth, and that's fun too. I think that we're very polarized, and overall, like it's a middle to upper class community. I mean, the majority of which middle to upper class, and in theory educated, and yet I don't know. I think we've all been burned by something. And so people are responding according to what's burned them, I guess, you know. And people have selfish reasons and defensive reasons. And now that it's a police issue, you know, the Blue Lives Matter thing, that's really intact with the, they've got their pulse on the civilization right now, clearly. So yeah, I think everything's confusing. And I also think we've swung so far to the liberal that it feels almost impossible sometimes to not offend someone. But you know who doesn't mind offending people?
Yeah.
Conservatives. They're really good at it in general, right? But I mean, no matter how hard I try, I feel like I'm gonna offend someone, and so it means constantly learning, and people don't want to learn.
Yeah, that's an interesting, I think that's like the crux of it, right? Is like people don't want to learn. And science inherently is learning. It's saying like, here's what I think is happening. And then you're either proved right or wrong. Right. But whatever you're proved, you have to you have to adjust. That's science. It's adjusting.
It's science. It's adjusting. It's believing something that very few people can understand, because it's complicated. Like Seth Meyers had on, this is the second time I've forgotten his name. Neil
Gorsuch.
No, but it does start with G. I like that. The super smart African-American scientist.
DeGrasse Tyson.
Thank you. And he was talking about, he was laughing, but it was not so funny. But he was laughing and like, oh, the world's ending, ha, ha, ha. But then we were talking about the refrigerator asteroid, you know, that's coming to today, I believe, actually. And explaining the science of it, and I started getting a little bit confused, but I at least feel like I'm talking to a scientist. I'm gonna his opinion.
It's hard too, because I remember reading somewhere that like every generation has thought that the world is going to end, right? Like every era, every generation has their like doomsday thing, but like one of those generations is going to be right.
I think it's ours.
At some point.
This one, yeah.
And like were the dinosaurs also like, did they like, who knows what they were capable of thinking, but like, was there also ever like a doomsday scenario thing? And then one day, like there really was a comet that destroyed everything. So it's like, yeah, I don't want to be alarmist. I am like trying to be aware, and I'm trying very hard not to spiral, because that's my tendency. And I know that, but like, I mean, they might be right.
You've seen Ice Age, any of the Ice Ages, you know, this cartoon.
Yes.
I mean, they kind of knew what was going on, and they were kind of right. And I don't remember them having massive fires. I'm also from Florida, so the fact that we run out of hurricane names and then go to the Greek system, that was a shocker for me, because I grew up with hurricanes, you know.
For things to get so bad that you have to learn a new alphabet.
Right. Which, I mean, unless you were a sorority girl, which I was not, so I never bothered learning that. But still, it's a little crazy. It's even crazier. Yeah. On a slightly lighter note, how did you get into comedy?
Like, how did I get into doing it?
Yeah. I'm sorry, was that a complicated question?
Kind of. Well, because how did I get into
answer is usually improv classes or comedy. Okay.
It wasn't improv classes. I mean, I'm Jewish, so like there's very much, if you've seen any of my comedy or just looked at me and listened to me, you know I'm Jewish.
Nope, you don't look as Jewish as I thought you were, and you don't look as Jewish as you did like 12 years ago, so go.
I've really grown into my features, but there is like a value of comedy, of laughter, because it's like such a tragic culture of constant whatever. So like that's always been, I think, in the background subconsciously without even realizing it. And then when I was in college, my senior year of college, I graduated into the recession. I graduated with a Spanish degree and couldn't get a job except as like a temp.
But can you roll your R's?
I can roll my R's.
Okay. There you go.
So it became sort of like I also used to be a musician. I was a saxophone player and then developed like really bad jaw problems. So I had to quit.
Okay.
And so I think I had like a sort of an urge, a yearning to perform, because that's always been part of my life, and didn't know what to do with my life. I was listening, podcasts had sort of like just started happening and just coming to the forefront. And I had a student job in a library where I wasn't like doing anything, and I would just listen to podcasts.
Sure.
And listen to a lot of comedians who would say, you know, like, if you ever want to do comedy, you go to an open mic and you just start. And I was like, that's it. That's all you do. You just start. So I like got curious, and I had nothing else to do. And I was like young and dumb and single and like wanted to fuck somebody. And
that's actually the way you do comedy, I think.
And comedy is like a male dominated.
That's kind of the way you do it, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And also like my friends, we were all graduating. My friends were leaving. It was like, I need to find a new community. So I found an open mic. There was like one in New Orleans at the time. It was. Where did you go to school? Tulane.
Okay.
So I.
So your parents must be so proud about the expensive education yeah.
Yeah, I know. But so I like signed up for this open mic, and I went, and I think for most comedians the first time is always good, because you're so delusional and you've never experienced a bomb, so you only have confidence. And because of that, it was great. And it was a high that I was like, I want to chase that. That's the best adrenaline I've ever felt. And I was just like floating on cloud 9 for the rest of the night. And then my second time was good. My third time was awful. And then it was bad for like a year.
Oh, great. Where is there, I would be scared to go to a comedy club in like Louisiana, New Orleans area.
Why?
I don't know, because so my husband went to law school there, my brother went to college there, I have been there a lot. I just don't remember. I feel like it's one of these, like, you walk too far and wonder, if you take 5 steps too many, you end up in like the slummiest place ever, and then 5 places in the other direction, and it's like, oh, it's just girls showing boobs for necklace, you know, like it's a very, also alligators, so.
Well, actually, but alligators are not territorial and not aggressive generally.
Okay.
I mean, they're territorial, but like they're not like crocodiles, where crocodiles will just like fuck you up no matter where you are. Gotcha. Alligators are like, this is my area, leave me alone, I'll just chill here. And like, yeah, I'm gonna eat some fish.
Okay.
Crocodiles are the ones you got to be afraid of.
Gotcha. I recently watched several videos of the Texas hurricane where some sort of gator was eating. I don't know. Fine.
Yeah, I mean, they're not ideal. They will kill your dog, but
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I think
place to.
I wouldn't say it's safe-ish. I would just say like you can get. I just feel like you can get raped and murdered anywhere, like on any block.
Yeah. This is true.
Sometimes your anxiety is so strong that it from being afraid of the things maybe you should be, but
right. So comedians also need anxiety.
I don't know what comedians need. I mean, I am anxious. And I am depressed. Yeah,
well, you're gonna have to take a number on this one these days. But I do think most comedians have a dark side. I think it's not unusual from the people I've spoken to, and I think it's how are you handling that darkness during this time? You know.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
You watch tennis, so you know.
I watch tennis. Well, yeah, we won't talk about it because I know you're inherently not interested in tennis. But
no, I was interested in one thing you said about someone attacking a referee.
Oh, nobody attacked a referee. So Novak Djokovic, who is the men's #1 in tennis. He's like an incredible player. He's also like famously an asshole.
Nice.
He during COVID, he he like put on a tournament that had no distancing, and a ton of tennis players got COVID, and it took them a really long time to recover, some of them. He's just like, he's kind of a dick. He's like trying to start his own tennis union, but is like, as a, you know, sort of like, so we can get paid more, but is specifically excluding women. He's just like, he's a dick, but he's an incredible player. And he, during a match, like got real pissed off and sort of like slammed a ball, and it hit a lineswoman in the throat.
Oh,
He was
okay.
disqualified because of it.
But do you not remember, you're probably too young to remember like tennis used to be all about the assholes. Like everyone that played tennis was an asshole, you know?
It's like, it's very, I mean, McEnroe, I think, was like the original asshole. But then, you know, you had like the era of Federer, who's very just like proper and like a nice guy. He never gets emotional. If you see it on him, it's like very rare. And he's been, you know, he's like top of the game for a long time.
Yeah. And then I think Serena and Venus Williams were good. Like, I don't find either one of them to be assholes unless I've missed something.
It's like, it's tough. They have a reputation certainly as like being more emotional, but that's also very coded. And it's like, okay, and if they were white, would you be saying these things?
And that is why I'm saying I do not think it, you know, like that's like the tone policing.
Yes. Yeah. Serena does get very emotional though. Like there is like a difference in style. Like some players, like you never see what they're feeling on their face. Like Naomi Osaka is one of those players who like, she's just always cool as a cucumber. And Serena will like yell, and she'll argue back with the umpire, which is also something that like the longer you play, I think the more you learn to stand up for yourself.
Right. And
there's a lot of things that men do, and she gets in trouble for it.
That's exactly where I was going with it. And then I believe Naomi Osaka was the one who you said wore a different mask each day for.
Yeah. So she didn't just like wear, so she wore a mask for each match with the different name of a Black person who's been killed.
Thank you.
But she didn't just do that. She also staged a strike after the NBA said like, we're not playing unless you do these things. She also said like, I'm not playing in the US Open, which is huge, right? She's like, she's the, she didn't win last year, but she won 2 years before. She's like sort of a darling, but she's half Black and half Japanese, and said like, if like, I'm not playing if you guys don't do something. And so the tennis association like put up like a lot of Black Lives Matter signs. They like were very vocal. And like something that I've never seen in tennis before is the announcers were having legitimate, thoughtful conversations about race and about, it's something I've like never, and it's part of an effort. I mean, I think it started with Venus and Serena. They've like really changed what tennis looks like for women. Like the women's tennis is, especially like the younger players, are so diverse, and there are so many Black female tennis players now, especially from the US, and that's because of them. Like there's not an equivalent in men's tennis. I mean, there was like James Blake, there have been obviously like Black male tennis players, but not who are so predominant in the culture and who have been so outspoken and who are still playing.
Well, remember, it wasn't that long ago that it was just a male sport, or mostly a male sport, and that women were seen as, you know, subpar.
And like couldn't make a living doing it.
Yeah. It's just the same not being able to make a living thing exists for comedians, men versus women.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to it, because there are certainly more male headliners than female headliners. And a headliner being somebody who like can tour and gets like the most money. But also it's hard to make a living being a comedian, whether you're male or female.
Right.
I think the subtle disparities come when a headliner is most likely to bring their friends to open for them, right? And so if you have mostly male headliners, they're more likely to bring a guy. And then on the flip side, the female headliners get a lot of pressure from clubs to not have 2 women on the lineup because, and this is changing, but because like we're all the same or whatever, like we're just going to talk about our periods and our pussies and da da da. So they get pressure to also bring men to like diversify the lineup.
So question. So my husband and I are both psychologists, and you and your fiance are both comedians. And so for some reason I thought I blanked. I thought I was like, do I say comic? I was very into being politically correct at the moment, and I just over politically corrected it. Like, do you learn from each other? Do you see a disparity? Like, I definitely am aware that because we went to graduate school together, and we're I'm in private practice, he's not, but there's definitely still a huge like, yes, most patients are looking for female psychologists because most patients are female, because men, especially men of color, are significantly less likely to seek help, but more likely to kill themselves efficiently, because they don't seek help, and because they're, for whatever reason, men are more likely to own a gun. And so, but my husband is more likely to command more money. And although there's a part of that that's me, there's also a part of it that's, I think, a gender issue. So I'm wondering, like, if you, have you, you know, if your personal relationship has led to any insights.
Yeah, I think so. The money thing is hard because my fiance is older than I am. He's 8 years older, which also means he started comedy 10 years before I did.
Right, but you've been together for long enough that I saw a roast where they mentioned him, so.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of the same friends, but we have very different communities.
Okay.
Like the comedy, there's so many comedians, and the way that my fiance and I usually talk about it is like we're in different classes at school. So it's like, it's sort of like saying, like, do you get more homework because you're a woman? It's like, well, we're taking 2 different classes. We have 2 different teachers. Like, it's a little, also like my focus is mostly stand up. His focus is much more writing.
Okay.
So that's also like a different field.
You don't do writing?
I write, but like he's like sold shows and written for shows. He's Nate Bargatze's writing partner. Like, I don't have an equivalent for that.
I don't know who Nate Bargatze is, I have to tell you.
Very funny. Highly recommend.
Yeah. But I also couldn't figure out your fiance's name until 5 minutes ago, stalking your Instagram. And because when they said it in the roast, I couldn't get it spelling correctly. I tried though. I stopped.
It's okay. Yeah. Well, a lot of people, including myself, I call him by his last name.
Okay.
Which is Shacky.
Yes.
But his real name is Dan.
Yes, but Shacky is hard to spell if you don't know how. So yeah, I stalked it. But so you're saying you're literally just in different specialties.
We're in different specialties. I will say, like, certainly when the Me Too movement happened, definitely when Louis C.K. was outed, there were a lot of long conversations of me having to explain sort of like why this is so bad, which was really frustrating. And he has come around. But I think for him, he was like, yeah, it's a comedy festival. Like, you know, you hook up, like you do stuff like that. And I was like, okay, but how would you feel if let's say like Louis took me to open for him, like, would you be comfortable with that? And he was like, no. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so like, that's a difference. That's an opportunity that I can no longer get, right? Because you're uncomfortable, I would be uncomfortable, but that's a lot of money that I would then have to say no to, that a man doesn't have to say no to.
Right.
So it's much like, it's these subtle ways, like it's the things that we sort of like have to say no to in order to protect our own safety.
Yes.
And then there's I'm like kind of ashamed of the roast battles. I don't love the things that I said. I certainly would never say most of those now.
Way too, that's not my sense of humor. And I don't, I think but I also don't, it's a roast, like, you know.
Sure, it is a roast. There was a roast battle that I did that is not on the internet because of the way that the judges sexually harassed me. When I got on stage, they like made up a rape fantasy about me. And what was hard is a lot of those judges were friends with my fiance.
Yeah.
And we had to have a long talk about like, yeah, I don't want you hanging, like, it's a weird thing to be like, I don't want you hanging, like seeing these people, but it's like, yeah, you have to understand, like, if you're at a club hanging out with these guys, like, I will not be there. I will not come. I will never look these people in the eye. I hate these people.
It's funny because even what's on, I thought at various points was really, I was impressed that you kept hard skin, because even the, you know, 2 or 3 that I saw, like, it was a lot. And that's why I'm saying, like, it became very not funny to see you being, you know, berated for the same things. And like, and some of them are not, it's some not funny shit that you've been through. And like the one with you and your friend, I was very uncomfortable, but I was also very uncomfortable with what the judges were saying. And like, it was, I'm not uncomfortable in a judgy way. I just, I thought you were a rock star for keeping a, you know, I don't know what the expression is, but for keeping like a, you know, a smile on your face. And I also feel like, why does this bitch have to keep a smile on her face? Why can't she be like, fuck, you know?
Well, look, maybe this says something about my own issues, but like I did genuinely enjoy them. I do enjoy a joke at somebody's expense, especially if that person is my friend.
Yeah. Right. I agree, but I don't think that says something about your own issues. I just thought there are some things that it's tough, and rightfully should be tough to make funny, like you know, like the rape fantasy, or, you know, previous abuse, or whatever it is. Like, I, you know, to me, I was like, ugh, not as a shrink, but as a woman, I felt,
Totally.
you know, I felt like there was a line being pushed. Obviously I'm not a comic, and so I couldn't relate to that. But when the Kavanaugh hearings came, it was insane to try to explain to my husband, my father-in-law, any man I knew, why this was so horrendous and how many women have been put in a similar, you know, position.
Yeah.
Of like not raped, but duped or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But hurt, right?
But
like,
hurt.
but like
Yeah.
violated. I remember I had jury duty last year or 2 years ago maybe, and it was a case where like a man had he had like grabbed a woman on a subway, like grabbed her ass, and did it a couple of times. And when we were in the deliberation room, you know, it was like a pretty good mix of like men and women, and all of the women, we were all like, that's happened to me. That's because I remember there was one guy in the room who was like, I mean, come on, did this really? And we're like, this has happened to all of us. We have all experienced this. And he was like taken aback, and he was like, oh my God, like I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm sorry that's happened to you. And it was like, yeah, there's this disconnect. There's this fundamental disconnect because we're conditioned to not talk about it.
Right.
And they are conditioned to not listen to it.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I had to pull out for my father-in-law, which is awkward, like you know, a tale from when I was like 15, you know, and, you know, was totally a dumbass kid, but was like, you know, duped into a room where, oh, the lights didn't work. And like, you know, I was not raped, but I was silently placed in, you know, a position where I did not want to be touched, and was. And if you're not a woman, you can't understand why why not do something different? And I think it's similar to like, you know, recently people have started like, Seth Meyers yes, I have sort of a thing for Seth Meyers. He did this thing where he had some of his, you know, black female writers come on, and I mean men too, but like talk, especially a woman who is less intimidating, at least an average, than, you know, a man, discussing how they were stopped by the police, or how they were treated, or what the difference is, you know, like, we don't know if we don't experience it. And yet the Me Too movement obviously didn't do enough, because we still have got Kavanaugh in the Supreme Court and all this other shit. So I guess an additional hurdle in your field is so far no one has done like affirmative action. Am I using the right word? Like, no, I don't know. So far, there's no bonus offered by anyone for having more female comedians, and perhaps there should be. And maybe that's why I think there are a lot of comedians that wait until they're older for one reason or another. Like and they still get the same shit. Or if you start when you're young, you're burnt out of getting sexualized,
Yeah, that's an interesting proposal. I mean, there's certainly nothing like that in the comedy clubs, right? The comedy clubs, there's no there's no incentive for anything except for selling tickets and getting people drunk. In a writer's room, it's a little different. There is it's like kind of a little fucked. It's very complicated, but like there is it's literally called the diversity hire.
I'm okay
and
with it.
And the money does not come from the show's budget. It comes from somewhere else. And
which makes it less okay, but if it's still achieving a goal,
right, it does achieve a goal. I'm obviously like not the person to speak on this of like how it feels for that writer, but there can be complicated issues where somebody looks at you and goes, you are literally just the diversity hire. That said, I would take the money.
I don't how much money I would probably
get
take
me in the room.
Yeah, but I also think that that's the same shit that happens, unfortunately, with like I have heard people say that they only want to go to a white doctor because anyone else who like somehow a minority's qualifications were got them in instead of their brain, and
so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous, and in fact, I don't know. I mean, I know good doctors and crappy doctors, and skin color really has anything to do with my experiences, but I think we're still fighting this, and obviously we have to put out whatever fire is burning the brightest, and right now it's clearly Black Lives Matter, and so be it. But I think with Kamala Harris, now we get to see the intersectionality. Read about this last night at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. The intersectionality of like race and sex, and how we can all get screwed. I don't think as Jewish women we get the same. Like I don't, for whatever reason, right now, at least right now in New York, I feel like it's not. I feel like we're more likely to get confusion as to what a Jew is. Or as you said it, did Christ die to save your souls, or did we kill him? Which one is it? Like, pick one.
Yeah, are you mad or are you grateful?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I thought that was great too. And it's a very good point. I mean, I went to Georgetown, and so I remember asking a question. They used the word Eucharist, and I don't know what the fuck a Eucharist is. And when I asked, the teacher gave me the snide look, like, I guess you didn't go to church a lot. I'm like, did it never occur to you that we had a non-Jew in this? Yeah, really?
Yeah.
But it's just not the same thing,
Yeah, it's different when you can hide it.
Yeah.
Or when somebody doesn't assume it of you, right? Like it's also very different in New York, where it's sort of ingrained in the culture.
Yeah,
but like
I also grew up in
Kentucky. It's a little different.
Yeah,
you grew up in Florida.
Yeah, Boca Raton, Florida, specifically. So, like, I didn't know I was a minority until I went to Georgetown. Actually, University of Florida, Gainesville, because it's very southern up there. And so, I did not. That's sort of when I realized that I met people who had never heard of a Jew or met one or whatnot. But yeah, no, we're sheltered here in New York in some way. So how do you thrive in your field? Despite
if I knew.
I know, but I mean, listen, but you have, I feel like, listen, I'm going to give you credit for the New York Times piece. And yes, it was just one line, but it was brilliant and it stuck with me. Yes, I did have to dig out my stalking page because I don't know, I got the day wrong. But I also think it's a shame. I think you should take advantage of your fiance's connections, any and all, except for the dickheads. And I don't think you should sit on like, no, I'm going to do this on my own because.
Oh no, I would never.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
No, I will reach out to anybody and everybody and use whatever
Yes.
I can. I have no pride and no shame.
I was going to say improve blowjobs, whatever you have to do, do it because I don't know, because it's a tough field to break into, you know.
It's also like, yeah,
and you're broken in. I don't want to give the novice, but like you're broken in, but it's also making that point, you know.
Well, I think certainly when I started, there was like a fear of like, I don't want to get things just because like somebody's trying to fuck me or whatever. And now it's like,
He's got a ring on your finger. Let him fuck you. And yeah.
Also, like, I know that I'm very competent. I'm very good at this. So I deserve it because I'm good at this. If you're giving it to me just because you want to fuck me, that's fine.
I'm not going to fuck you, but you can do it. Yeah.
Right.
Or if you want to, whatever. I don't know.
Or, you know, who knows? We'll see how
it depends on the person. Let's not judge.
Yeah. We all have a list.
Yeah, exactly. But so how are you keeping sane right now? Okay.
Well, you know, did I stay up until 4 a.m. 3 nights ago sobbing? Yes, of course. So there are those nights. I'm trying to make sure I get dressed every day.
That's a good one.
I will say it's gotten much easier to be sane as I've gotten a little busier. So like once I've like started doing the census, like actually having a job, when the shows are more frequent, like when I can go to parks and yell, like that's still very helpful. But I'm trying to do yoga with Adrian has helped a lot. So I like physically feel stronger, even if like I'm still drinking and like eating whatever. So I haven't lost any weight, but I'm trying to be much better about like recognizing that that's not the point. That's not the value. Like the value is like to feel strong.
Is yoga with Adrian a certain thing, or is it a friend?
Yes, it's this YouTube channel. Her name is Adrian. Yoga with Adrian is the channel. And she's like, I think she has like a cult following. I think I am in that cult.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm sorry.
If she started a religion, I would be like, yeah, that's fine. I'll do it.
I'm starting my yoga teacher training on Saturday because I've always wanted to do, and I'm not getting any younger, and I'm fucking terrified. But I could use some practice. So perhaps yoga with Adrian will be for me. And I can't remember Sanskrit to save my life. My kids have learned it, but I have not because dumb old mom. So you're finding ways at self-care.
Yeah, I deleted my social media apps. So I can still go on through the browser, but it's real annoying. So I don't scroll as much.
So how am I going to find your humor on Twitter? That is not happy.
I still tweet. I still write jokes. I just don't have it in front of me to like scroll and read everybody else's. Right. So I still go on and I like put up my little joke or whatever, and I still like post stuff on Instagram, but it's not like a thing that I will now just pick up and spend hours doing.
How does that help you?
I've been reading a lot more.
What are you reading?
Because of it. Right now I'm reading this book called Fleischman is in Trouble. It's like a very New York novel. It's really good. I really like it. And then I'm also trying to read a lot of young adult books because after that New York Times article, like a literary agent reached out and like asked if I would consider writing young adult stuff, which I don't know how to do.
I'm sorry, I'm going to give you the finger. So after that, someone just randomly was like, why don't you write a young adults novel?
Yeah.
I fucking hate you. I mean, congratulations.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, this is also after 10 years of just toiling in obscurity. And
no, it really doesn't. I won a Cosmo fiction contest.
That's so cool.
Yes, it was in 2003. It was the first ever and last ever. And I got an agent from it, but we never found a publisher. And then my first book came out. I usually have it.
Okay, Miss Fuck You, here's my book.
No, wait. It came out March 18th.
Oh, no.
We had an enormous party planned at the Cradle of Aviation Museum, which is like the Long Island, like schlubby, like it's like a wedding venue, and you know, but it's like the Air and Space Museum. I was going to use it to raise awareness about preventing teen suicide and 10 Steps and the Stigma. I have a book signed by Margaret Atwood in my basement, and 6,000 other celebrities, and then we closed, and so 42 years of waiting for it.
So sorry.
Someone offers you a book. So
that sucks so much. I'm so sorry.
Like my closet, my entire house is filled with like, I mean, shit that was going to decorate and signs. And like, I had someone was going to donate food, booze. This was going to be a huge thing. And then it was, and the sad thing is we were going to release it in December because it's a self-help book. And then we got, because I have a co-author, we got like support, validation, I don't know what the fuck you call it, like a stamp from the United Nations International Day of Happiness, but that was going to be on March 18th, possibly 20th. So we decided to wait. I'm not saying it would have been a fucking bestseller, but at least it wouldn't have been like a tree falling in a forest where everyone is in quarantine. So,
oh man.
So that is phenomenal. I know some great YA authors that I have met. Gay Polisner is fantastic. She also released 2 books during the pandemic, and just a ton of people. So write something and make it amazing. And I'm going to just be giving you the finger from.
Well, it's hard because I haven't read a young adult book since I was a young adult, right? Like,
right. They've changed a lot.
Yeah.
Like
so,
there's a lot more nudity and boob grabbing and stuff now.
Feels much more like, well, it's a combination. Some of it feels like very fantastical, but a lot of it feels much more like real and grounded to like what kids actually go through.
Yes. Gay Polisner wrote a great one about, it's in front of me because whatever, it's called The Memory of Things, and it's about 9/11 and what happened after. Although, how old were you in 9/11?
I was 11, 12.
Oh, go fuck yourself. Okay. So it'll be new for you.
I'm not that much younger than you. I'm 31.
It still feels younger. It was my second day of graduate school. So somehow it seems, so you couldn't have been 11. One of us can't do math. I don't know who though.
I know I was in middle school, so I was at least 11.
So were you traumatized? You're Israeli. You don't give a fuck about that.
I'm not Israeli. There's no Israeli.
No, but you were named after the prime minister, I thought.
No, that's a joke.
Oh.
No, I'm named after my grandfather.
Okay.
Was I traumatized? Maybe. I don't know. It's a really good question. I don't think I've ever like asked. It felt far away. Like I didn't know what the Twin Towers were before they fell. And I had never been to New York before. So I guess so, in the way that like all of us were, because everything had to shift and change. I remember I like really wanted to have like a flag outside of our house because there was that like brief period of solidarity where like we're like, we are Americans, before like that meant something horrible.
Yeah.
Before we went to wars for no reason.
Right.
For our generation.
See, I remember the Gulf Wars where we had yellow ribbons for reasons I didn't understand.
Yeah, it's I think I'm much more traumatized from April in New York.
Because we never knew this was going to happen.
I mean, we didn't know 9/11 was going to happen either. Well, okay. Somebody did, but...
Valid, but this was just a horror movie plot, nothing else.
I mean, the worst moment, because obviously there were the sirens, right? Like that was terrifying and awful, but like in the background a little bit, it became, you could like sort of become a little, not numb to it, but it faded. But we live like a block away from a funeral home, and I remember one night, like pretty late, walking my dog and hearing like something like rumble, like a really loud like truck, and I was like, what is that noise? And realized it was a refrigerated truck in the parking lot of the funeral home for the overflow of bodies.
Yep.
And it just stayed there for a really long time. And like that, I think for me was the moment of like, oh, this is really bad. And we're like, this is a horror movie.
Yeah.
And also my fiance's uncle died like week 2 from COVID, and we couldn't have a funeral. And that's something that's like still traumatizing.
Of course it is. And it's traumatizing for both of you. And the trauma is going to continue.
Yeah. And I think like what's just to like bring it full circle, to be able to like perform right now and to talk about it. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying very hard to like not shy away from this collective experience that we're all having in different ways. But like I ask usually at some point, like, who stayed the whole time? And then whoever claps, I say like, okay, so those are the traumatized people.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that if you left, you don't have your own trauma, but it is, I think, like a unique thing having been here. And then I also want to be very careful of like not glorifying that trauma, of not being like, well, we're real New Yorkers. You know, it's like, no, like we're just poor. Like we just didn't have the option to leave.
I know, but sometimes I think we try too hard not to offend.
Yeah, but I think we also, I think there is like something about New York that is like, New Yorkers like to glorify horrible things because it's New York, right? Because those horrible things happen on a grander scale, because living here is harder. And the only way to cope with that and to justify living here is to say like, well, that's what makes you tough. That's what makes you a real New Yorker. And I challenge that notion. I don't think that's what makes you a real New Yorker. I think what makes you a real New Yorker is like having being able to exist and thrive in a place where you shouldn't exist or thrive, right? It's having a sense of community without having to talk to anybody. Like that's what being a New Yorker to me is. And so I do want to be very careful in my sets about like, you're not better than anybody because you've been through more trauma. You're just traumatized.
Right. Okay. Although I will say, and I know we should wrap up soon, but 2 things. Like one is, to me, because I did read Caitlin's book, and when she talked about talking to bodega cats, I was like, now that's a real New Yorker.
Yes. Absolutely.
And, I was like, that's just so New York and no other place. And then 2 is there is a lot of research that suggests that if you go through trauma, it prepares you to be more resilient for the next time it comes around, because somehow we learn to get through it. So I think in this, eventually we will get to a point of strength, having gone through this, but 100% this is a trauma time, and I hate and envy those who are in denial. But like stabby hate them.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice that like I think like you're too smart, but like wouldn't it be, do you ever imagine what it would be like to just
be dumb?
To be kind of dumb
and
like
dumb.
Capable of ignorance.
No, I want to be dumb. I really do. I used to hate dumb and ugly people, but now I'm starting to want to be dumb.
Yeah, it seems easier. It seems nice.
I know. Where can people find you on your few and far between social medias? And how about New Yorkers who might want to come out to shows, or those like underground speakeasies and we're not allowed to talk about them?
So we can talk about them. I don't have them on my website because they pop up pretty much like the night before.
Fine.
But I do post either on Instagram, which is it's at Ariel Elias. So the
Yeah,
letter S is
it
in
was a
between the names.
while where I thought your name was Ariel Elias, and so then I
Yeah.
couldn't find you on Twitter. So yeah.
Yeah, Ariel Elias was taken, and I don't know. There is, if you email arielelias@gmail.com, there is a very angry man in Argentina who will reluctantly forward it to me, but he's gotten a lot of like weird sketches sent to him.
And is it the same? It is the same.
It's the same on Twitter. Yeah, at Ariel Elias.
Wonderful.
It looks like Ariel Elias.
I know. That's why I thought it was Celius, and I was very confused. Thank you so much.
Thank you.